This lesson is about factors, and we start at the very beginning, which is the most basic factors of all, but don't worry, we'll get to the more advanced questions quickly as well. So we'll start right here. Something like the number 2, for example, has factors 1 by 2, 1 by itself. The number 3 has factors 1 by 3. The number 4 has factors 1 by 4, but it also has 2 by 2. The number 10, for example, has 1 by 10, 2 by 5. And we can start off like that, and these are the basic ones. And obviously, any numbers that have only themselves and 1 as factors are called prime numbers. So these, for example, are what's called the prime numbers 2 and 3, etc. 7 is another one, 1 by 7. Now, other numbers, of course, have loads more factors. Take a number like 36. You could have 1 by 36. You could have 6 by 6. You could have 3 by 12. You could have 4 by 9. Now, the numbers are fine. As we can see, it's easy to get factors of numbers like that. But when it comes to x's or algebra, let's take a number x. X just stands for a number we don't know. It turns out we can get factors of that as well. And that's quite an amazing thing about maths. We don't even need to know the number to get factors, because based on previous patterns, if you look at all the other numbers, no matter what the number is, the factors are always itself and 1, at least. So x has factors x and 1. So we can get factors of x without even knowing what x is, and that's pretty amazing. The same with y. We could get factors of y are 1 by y. We can get more ambitious. We can even go on to something like x squared and get factors there as well. Again, it must be 1 by itself. That's always the case in previous examples. And not only that, but you can go x by x is x squared. So we've got 2 sets of factors for a number we don't know. Again, that's quite amazing. We don't even have to know the number to get factors sometimes. And we can keep going on a little bit more advanced each time. For example, we can get something like x squared plus 2x. And it's getting more complicated each time, but that doesn't put us off, because we know that at least one factor is 1 by itself, which is 1 by x squared plus 2x. But then we can also move on to something like this. You can take x just by trial and error and by looking at it from the other point of view, x by x plus 2. Now, how do I know that? Some of these steps often make more sense backwards. What you can do is look at x by x is x squared. That's what factors do. When you multiply them together, they give you the original number. So x by x is x squared. X by 2 is 2x. Or you can do it a bit faster. The method is what we call taking out the x. Take out what's common, which is what's often used in school. So we can say we're taking out what's common. There's an x in that, and there's an x in that. So we can take out the x multiplied by whatever's left over. So there's an x left over, and there's a 2. So we're still getting factors without knowing the original number. And likewise, if you have x squared plus 3x, it's 1 by itself, x squared plus 3x. And of course, you could just take out the x like we did earlier. X, if you take out an x, what's left over? Put what's left over in a bracket. So there's an x left over still, and there's a plus 3 left over. So we're still having success, again, without knowing what the original number is. Then comes on to something like this, x squared minus y squared. We've got 2 unknown numbers at this stage, and that still doesn't put us off, because we've got 1 by x squared minus y squared, 1 by itself. But it turns out there's another one. It turns out that if you multiply x plus y by x minus y, if you multiply those 2 brackets together, everything cancels except for the x squared and y squared. And we can leave that as an exercise for the student, but you can trust that when you multiply those 2 brackets out, you end up with just x squared minus y squared, and that can be proven easily by just multiplying out the brackets. So again, we now have 2 unknown numbers. So we're getting more ambitious all the time. We can really do amazing things without even knowing the numbers. Any of the 2 numbers, x squared and y squared, we can get x plus y by x minus y as factors. And moving on. So we can, by the way, we might just mention some of the maths language we use in these questions. These are called terms. So that the first term there is x squared, the second term is 2x. When they're separated by a plus or a minus, we call them terms. So x squared is the first term, 2x is the second term. So these all have 2 terms, x squared plus 3x, 2 terms there, and 2 terms here, x squared minus y squared. Now we'll keep getting more ambitious. We're going to go on to 3 terms now, and these are called trinomials. So if we go on to the next page, and we'll talk about what are called trinomials. Now, take this example, x squared plus 7x plus 10. Now, there are three terms. Can we get factors of that? Well, obviously, there's one by itself. That's what we might call a trivial case. We're not really interested in that one because it's an obvious one anyway. What we are interested in is other factors that appear here. And it turns out that, again, if you have two brackets, I'm going to show you the answer first, then I'll show you how I got it. So x plus 2 multiplied by x plus 5 actually works. Now, how do I know that? We can do rough work over here and show you how it works out. So in rough work, we have x plus 2 by x plus 5. Let's multiply out those brackets and see what happens. So we have x by the second bracket plus 2 by the second bracket. Now what do we get? X by x is x squared, x by 5 is plus 5x, plus 2x, plus 2 5s is 10. And these are like terms, so they come together. So it's x squared, 5 and 2 is 7x plus 10. And that's the answer. As you can see, that's what we got up here. So that's how we know we're right. That's how we know these are factors, because factors have only one job, and they do that job very well. And multiply them together, they give you the original number, which they do here, as you can see. The only problem is I gave you the answer at the start, because I knew the answer by working backwards. The real question is, how would you get those factors anyway on your own? And it turns out there's lots of different methods, and I'm going to discuss one of those methods here. It's called the guide number method. So if you weren't told the answer, how would you find it? So the guide number method. Let's take that one again, x squared plus 7x plus 10. Now I'm going to put a 1 in front of the x because there's one. The number in front is very important here. They're called the coefficients. Some might have given their proper name. These are called coefficients. There's actually another one here, and there's another one here. So 1, 7, and 10. And it turns out what you do is multiply the first by the last. The one in front of the x squared and the constant on its own at the end. So the guide number is 1 multiplied by 10, which is 10. Take first by last. So first and last. Now what you do is you take a closer look at that number 10, and you try and find out what factors of that number 10, when you add them together, give you the number in the middle. So what factors of 10, when added, give you the middle number? And you can use some trial and error here. I mean, this one's an easy one I picked to start, so there's not that many options anyway. So you take the 10, and you try and think of factors of 10. Well, there's 1 by 10, and there's 2 by 5. We need the middle number, which is 7. We need 7. So we need to end up with 7 somehow, plus 7. And we don't there, but we do here because 2 and 5 is 7. So they're the right ones. We pick these two. Now what comes next? You rewrite this. Bring it down here. You rewrite as, leave the x squared as it is, and leave the one at the end as it is, which was plus 10. So leave the plus 10 as it was as well. And now the 7x, you break it up. 7x in the middle, you break that up. So that's 7x. We break it up into its two parts that we just found out, which is 2 and 5. So it's plus 2x plus 5x. So that 7x should correspond, basically, that plus 7x should correspond always with what's in the middle here, 2x and 5x. Might bring this plus 10 in a little bit, make it neater. And that's the first step of what we call the guide number method. Now what's next? Now we regroup. Put the first two together and the last two together. And we try and factorize again using the methods we used previously. You look at these two together and you look at these two. Look at the first two. Is there any number they have in common? there's an x in both terms. So you take out the x outside a bracket, and you shove into the bracket whatever is left, which is an x in this case, and the plus 2 is left. So if you're unsure of yourself, you can just see if it works backwards, because multiplying is factorizing backwards basically. So x by x is x squared, x by 2 is 2x. Plus, over here, let's do the same idea again here. So there's a 5x and there's a 10. Is there any number that goes into both of those terms? Well, 5 does. Take out the 5 and you've got x left over. Take out the 5 out of 10 and you've got 2 left over. Now what have you got? And now what you have is this x plus 2 term. This x plus 2 factor. That's in both. And in the exact same way as you had an x in both up here, you took out the x. If you have an x plus 2 in both, you take out the x plus 2. So you can actually take that x plus 2 outside the bracket. So take out your x plus 2 outside and shove into the bracket everything that's left over. Now all that's left over is basically what's in yellow here, which is x and plus 5. So you shove that into the second bracket, x plus 5. And that's it. They are your two factors. So that's what we call the guide number method. You take out so go back to the start again. What you do is, just to summarize, the first number by the last, or the first coefficient by the last, 1 by 10 is 10. Once you have the 10, you figure out which factors of 10 give you 7. What's in the middle, plus 7x. Which factors of 10 give you 7? Once you find those factors, 2 and 5, you rewrite the 7 in terms of its factors. 7x becomes 2x plus 5x, or in terms of the numbers that add up to 7, I should say. 2x plus 5x. Then you regroup. You group the first two together, x plus 2x, and then you have 5x plus 10 here. And you take out what's common. Factorize again. There's an x in both terms here. Take it out. You have x plus 2 over here. There's a 5 common. Take it out. You have x plus 2 left. And finally, the blue term, that blue blob there, is common to both. So you take out the blue blob out here, x plus 2. And what's left over is what's in yellow, x plus 5. And that's the second factor. And that's how you do the guide method. Now, we might take a look at some of the more difficult ones you can get in the guide method. Let's try a few with minuses and so on. So we'll try one here, for example, with a minus 3x squared plus 10x plus minus 8. And let's have a look at that. So using the guide number method, the guide number is equal to, take the first and the last. So it's 3 and minus 8. So it's 3 multiplied by minus 8, which is, it's a good idea not to use multiply sign as well, because the multiply sign gets mixed up with x sometimes, so I'm just using brackets for my multiplying. So 3 by minus 8 is minus 24. Now you take a look at minus 24, and you try and figure out by trial and error really, what factors of minus 24 give you 10? So try factors. Well, 24 by 1, for example. That's not going to give you 10 no matter what, so that's not the right answer. However, 2 by 12 does, if you get the signs right. Now it's plus 10, the plus is important too. So you need to end up with a plus somehow. Now plus 12 and minus 2 gives you plus 10. So there's the answer, that's the right one. And now what you do is you rewrite the middle term, 10x, in terms of the two factors down here, minus 2 and plus 12x. So off we go. The first one stays the same. So it's 3x squared. The last one stays the same, minus 8. And the two middle ones, minus 2x and plus 12x. Minus 2, I think I have more space there. I can use the space properly, 12x. And now you see they always add up to what's in the middle. That's the key. Now what's next? Next we regroup in twos. The first two and the last two together. First two terms come together and the last two terms come together. Now take out what's common again. Well, if you take the first two together, there's an x common. So take out the x, all that's left, if you take away an x, there's a 3x. minus 2. Test your answer if you're unsure of yourself. X by 3x is 3x squared, x by minus 2 is minus 2x. Plus, over here, take out, well, there's a 4 that goes into both of those, so take out 4 into 3x is left over minus 2 equals. And finally, this blue blob here, 3x minus 2, take out that blue blob, and it goes outside the bracket, and you have 3x minus 2. And what's left over is shoved into the bracket. Everything else is left over. There's an x plus 4 left over. And they are your factors, 3x minus 2 by x plus 4. And that's how you use the guide number method.